Recorded live from the back of Tom Brady's moving van. Hey, this stuff is really nice. It's the Photo Happy Hour podcast. Hey, and welcome everybody. I'm your Photo Happy Hour bartender, Michael Mowbray, and I'm serving up 2-for-1 shots of high-proof photographic wisdom. Hey, wisdom. Wisdom's a good thing nowadays. Joining me behind the bar are Dan Frievalt and Carl Caylor.
Hey, Michael said whiz.
Hey, Dan Frievalt here. I'm going to be, I think, putting some knowledge in the blender and mixing up a little margarita happiness today for y'all.
Ooh, margaritas.
I think next week, pina coladas of knowledge.
Ooh. I'm just going to
that.
pour whiskey over ice.
Pour some knowledge over ice.
There
So what
you
are
go,
you
that
guys?
works.
What are you guys drinking today?
Oh, I have a red blend from California.
Mm.
I think it's called California.
So wait, is it got a white label with black letters and it just says red?
Eat here.
I don't know. The box is black. I mean, I don't know.
So did you get the 2 or 3 gallon?
Hey, times are tough, man. I have the 5 gallon. I think we're in Wisconsin. They sell them in bulk here. You know.
I saw a place out in California that was doing like Capri juice boxes for wine. It's a real thing.
Get down to the end, you could squeeze them out. Squeeze
Yeah.
it out a little bit more.
So what do you got, Carl?
I have sea salt caramel Tennessee whiskey in honor of where Imaging USA was this year. We Michael and I and my wife went down and we taste tested moonshine at like 9:38 in the morning.
Yeah. That's a great time to test. Like, let's have like 10 shots of moonshine.
Why not? And they had whiskey there as well, and it's pretty smooth and it's like an after dinner drink, but we can drink it anytime.
It's a after lunch drink right now.
After breakfast drink, whatever.
Yeah, whatever the mood strikes you.
Absolutely.
I've got a bottle of 12-year-old Bowmore Scotch from Islay. So let's see what this thing sounds like. Ooh. It sounds good.
It sounds good.
Instead of like smell-o-vision, we need like taste, audio taste, audio taste. Audio tasting.
Yes. It's theater of the mind. This tastes like Smoky Pete and sadness. Anyway, if you're just joining us for the first time, the concept of the show is we sit and we drink and we talk about photography. And the more we drink, hopefully, the more intelligent we start to sound. At least we do to ourselves. But we cover a topic every week. And this week, we're going to be talking about our favorite lighting tools. Hey, we finally get to talk about gear. We've talked about business and creativity and all these soft, fuzzy, warm things. Let's talk about good old gear.
Toys.
I like toys.
Yeah.
Power tools.
The power tools of photography. Absolutely.
So what's your favorite power tool? What lighting tool could they not pull from your cold, dead hands? Maybe that's not a good reference right now.
Well, actually, I've made that reference before about my tripod. But
well, yeah,
my favorite lighting is still open sky. It's still my comfort zone. It's still what I do best. But when I don't have open sky, then there's 2 things I like, and one is the 8600 BM from Kodak, from MoLight. And
worst product name ever.
It is the worst product name ever, but it's awesome because we get to control it. It's a manual light, which I like, and I don't trust auto anything. So it's a wonderful tool to go to. It's got some power, but then I have 2 8200s as accents, and it actually turns out they work great for mains for most places I work. So right now I'm actually combining between natural light, open sky, and those other products from your store there, Michael. It's been awesome.
And what's the name of that store again? Does anybody know?
Some MoLight. What's the website?
I believe it's GoMoLight.com. That's GoMoLight.com.
Mole, 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 mole.
Mickey. No, it's a different song too. Never mind.
Yeah, if you're not working in full sun, and a lot of times I know you're working in more shadiness. You're a shady kind of guy.
I am.
The 8200 probably is enough light, especially if you're just trying to get just a little kick of light to get a little shaping on the face, or a little catch light in the eye, clean up a little bit of the color casts,
Well,
kind of
actually, I know Dan and we've talked about this before too, but one of the things that we really like about those lights is that we can turn them down a lot, because we're working in areas that are already nice, but we just want that, like you said, that more direction or a little more edginess and stuff. And it allows us to balance to those areas that we're working in lower light situations as well. So it's not about the power, it's about the lack of power sometimes that we need.
The range.
So, the range, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was, and I'm going to tip my hand a little bit to probably my favorite light in the whole lineup is the 8400 Pro. I'll come back to that in a second. But one of the things I noticed when I was photographing down at Sync, because I was teaching my class in overcast lighting, because we had a big freaking storm come through. So it was really, really diminished light. I did a TTL convert to manual. So I shot one on TTL. I liked the exposure. I converted it over to manual. We'll explain that later too. And my power ended up being like 1/256th plus a third on the 8400 Pro. So it's almost as far down as you can turn it. Yet I was using it outside because it was pretty diminished light. So yeah, having that power range is really nice.
And just for those who don't know what Sync is, it's a conference in Destin, Florida, and it's primarily focused on high school senior photographers. And it's a great conference. It's a great time of year to hit that. And it's put on by Darty Hines and Michelle Hines, who do a great job. So we'll put a link in as well for Sync, because you can really in-person workshops, which might be changing, but it's still a great way to learn in person as well. So
there was an interesting article. I'm getting off topic, but I always do that. Interesting article in the Washington Post today talking about how everything that's going on now is maybe going to change the way we do business face to face, and is going to move more and more things to online, and using like the connection we're using right now to do our podcast. We're in 3 different places, yet we're connecting online and can see each other via video. And I'm just wondering how that's going to impact our business. Hey, maybe that's a topic down the road, is how that's going to impact our business, and the lack of people wanting to do things face to face. Let's talk about that in a couple of weeks.
That's a good idea. Yes.
Good idea.
But yeah, so back to equipment.
Yeah.
Which that is technically equipment, but we were talking lighting equipment, and I'm kind of with Carl, and Carl brings up a great point, because I've gone through several different lights since the whole revolution of TTL and high-speed sync and all that. And yeah, the Kodak's MoLight brand I am able to dial down a lot, because I'm a lot like Carl and working in open shade later in the afternoon, but just want to kiss a light. And that really allows me to capture that and capture it easily. I'm actually a big fan of full TTL, which I never was, because I could never get it to work. But with the MoLights, it works great. And like Michael said, if you want to use that base exposure and then, hit is it a TCM button?
Yep. TCM button.
Yeah. I know where it is. And I was so excited when that came out. I'm like, I think it's called TCM, but you get used to just like movement with your fingers and hitting buttons. And it's like, you can lock it in and then it's consistent. But I find myself not even needing to lock it in. I just roll with TTL and it works great.
Is there any special setting that you tend to use with TTL? Any compensation, or maybe give listeners an idea of kind of where you start with the settings for, using this gear outside?
Yeah, great point. And that's the other beauty of using off-camera flash or external lighting, is that you can control the scene. And I'm a big believer in controlling the scene, or controlling the type of image you want to create, like the mood you want to create with it. So I normally start in open shade where natural light I'm coming from a natural light background. So I'm always trying to pick locations that have good natural light to start with. And then normally I would add a reflector just to open the eyes up a little bit. Now I can add an external light, and I'm usually like one stop below on the TTL. So like a -1 on TTL. So it doesn't look too flashy. It looks more like natural light, but it opens up the eyes a little bit. And I used to be full manual on my camera, but then I also several years back switched to aperture priority because I want to shoot wide open and get a soft, creamy background. And so I just let the camera do most of the work as well as the light do most of the work. Now, having said that, I also kind of shoot in manual in those auto programs because if the light's too bright, I just can do, like I said, -1 or -1.5, can turn it down right on the controller, and that affects the light, or that controls the light. Same thing with my aperture priority. I can just say, okay, I want to shoot wide open, let the shutter speed do whatever, and I can go like -1 or so, and then get a more dramatic or deeper background controlling the ambient.
Okay, I call it technical on that. Sociable, sociable on that. For talking so technical for a little bit there. Sociable.
So everybody grab a drink.
Yeah. So actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Another friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, Jen Hillingay, used to irritate her that people were telling her that, well, you're not even shooting a manual and you really don't know what you're doing because you're doing aperture priority. And I had to laugh. I was like, Jen, you really are doing this manual, like you just mentioned. It's how you understand your equipment. It's how you understand the math and how the math works for you in your brain. But you're really doing the same thing. I mean, you're doing it manually. It's just you're using an assist of the auto or the shutter priority or aperture priority. But by understanding where your exposure needs to be, and you're using your aperture or your exposure compensation dial and or your over under whatever for on your strobes, you're really doing the same thing. It's just, it comes right down to knowing your equipment, knowing our craft, and being a craftsman as we're working. And whatever works for you, as long as you understand it, it's gold. Don't worry about being manual or not manual necessarily.
Oh, exactly. And that sticks in my craw too. There's a term for you, sticking in my craw. Where you get there are some elitists in our business, and I don't even know if they're necessarily elitists, but people who just have this mindset that this is the only way to do it because this is the way we did in 1953. It's like, well, things change, and you're absolutely right, Carl, because I can do it in manual, but I do a lot of my work outside the same way Dan was talking about. But I'm looking through the viewfinder, I'm seeing the scene and going, I'm in aperture priority. And it's like, well, I know I've got some brighter tones in the background, I need to drop my exposure compensation down -1 or -1 1/3 to deepen the background. And I'm going to start at -1 on my TTL. So I just get a little kiss of light, and we're going to start there. So I've started with automatic, but I've already overridden it to begin with. It's just, for me, a quicker way to get there than to go let me run over there with a light meter. I have 3 light meters. I can do this a lot quicker by doing aperture priority, pick my depth of field, dial in my exposure compensation, set my base exposure, then dial in whatever exposure compensation or flash exposure compensation I want on my TTL, and I get there. Done. It's faster.
Right. But the thing is knowing your system. I mean,
right.
It's like my kids talking about, oh, the math teacher said we get to use our calculators today. I said, that's great. Calculators are wonderful to speed up some things. But if you don't understand the formulas, if you don't understand the concept, then the calculator isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. Very similar with aperture priority, shutter priority, or exposure compensation, or even your light meter for that matter. As long as you understand how it all works and understand where you're trying to get to, then you're golden. It's all a good thing.
And understanding the different metering modes in your camera and what their job is. And same thing with your light meter. Is it an incident light meter? Are you using a reflective light meter? And how they respond to light and how they interpret the light and to give you the calculation they're giving you. It's different. It's different depending on how the meter's set up, what mode it's using, and how you're using. All those things come together, and that's what a pro does. A pro takes all those options and all those tools And whether it's in manual, whether it's an aperture priority or TTL or whatever, knows when to make the adjustments to get a quality product captured in camera, and one that is what? Repeatable, that we can do over and over again. Not like put it on green pea and go, what do we got? You know, now I know some pros can do that and make it work. But more often than not, no, it's turning too many things over to the camera perhaps. But anyway, we're talking about lighting here.
Well, yeah, and I want to touch on that a little bit, because what I tend to do is study with a bunch of people, learn different techniques, and then try and figure out the easiest way to produce something consistently, like what you said, Michael. So it's like through the years, and how I started switching over to aperture priority is when I used to photograph weddings. And to me, number one is expression, because you can never get that back. So what I want to do is, if I'm photographing, let's say a bride, and everything's set up here, and I'm photographing, and all of a sudden I see out of the corner of my eye something like the little flower girl spinning or something, I can quick turn and get that shot. When I was in manual, all of a sudden I'm fumbling, like switching my shutter speed and my aperture, and my fingers are going back and forth. Oh, I just missed the shot. At least if I spun and got the shot, it's going to be 90% there. And then I can tweak it and get another shot, but maybe that moment's fleeting and it's gone, but at least I got it the first time. And it carried over to my senior business with what, kind of like you said, Michael, I get set up. I'm in an area where I know the good light. I have the light set up. I have my base exposure set. I take a shot. I look at it. This is good. Okay, now I can communicate with my subject, and I don't even have to look at my camera. That way, what's real important is keeping that open line of communication, making them feel comfortable, getting true expressions, boom, 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 moving fast, looking for clothing, things that are out of place, or a necklace out of place, and switching to this pose and that pose, and not worrying about the light or the equipment. I paid a lot of money for the equipment. I want to let it do its thing. It's like, if I have cruise control on my vehicle, I'm going to use it. Just because it's automatic. I mean, like, oh no, I grew up with learning a stick shift. I'm not using no darn cruise control.
I'm going to manually focus that lens. I'm not going to use that one that'll actually select the eye and automatically focus on where the eye is.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
That's cheating. You're not a professional.
That's right. I'm still going to drive my Model T. Yeah.
You know that they do have cruise control on stick shift. I'm just saying.
They do.
Well, okay. Automatic to stick shift. All right. So my reference wasn't. I did a flyer on the reference. I was on a roll.
You were.
A flyer, eh?
The flyer. Oh Fish, God. Mammal, forget it. He's on a roll.
Yeah, just let him go.
Just let him go. That brings us back to the webinar Michael and I did a few weeks ago when we talked about my first vehicle, which is a 73 Nova with a 3 on the tree. So there you go.
A 3 on the tree, eh?
And I could tell you were kind of surprised when you said 73 Nova, and I said that 3 on the tree, and you're like, it did.
Yeah, right. You're like, was it a 3-speed? I'm like, whoa, dude. Yeah.
I knew.
So, hey, a funny thing about what you guys are talking about, the auto or aperture priority and shutter priority and program and all that kind of stuff. And I had a laugh. And this happens over and over again in my week-long classes, but everyone will talk about light meters and how we're going to use the light meters. And it always amazes people that light meters need to be calibrated, and you need to work with your own system, your camera, and you need to do some testing, because it's like going to Best Buy and standing there in front of all the TV sets and looking and noticing that every color monitor is a little bit different. Your meters are the same way. They're not necessarily the same. You do need to calibrate, and you do need to make sure that they're in working order for your system, and your camera might not be exactly the same as the person sat next to you either. So you got to do a little bit of testing and trial and error, but to make sure that you're going to get what you expect. It bothers me to no end to hear the term, I hope I got it. You should know you got it, whether you're doing a manual or auto priority. Like we're all mentioning, you should have a system that's repeatable, a system that you know that you're going to get what you envisioned. So practice with your equipment, but understand that meters and cameras and all these different things that we're doing are different for everybody. And just the way we use things differently makes them a little bit unique as well.
I don't understand that comment. I hope I got it. We have digital now. I mean, you got an instant confirmation if you got it. And even more so, you can pop up the histogram and make sure that you've got the exposure right. I mean, I don't get that. And I hear that myself. I'm like, did you look?
No, it's funny. I was laughing the other day because something reminded me, and I don't know what it even was, but back in the days when I was shooting a lot of commercial stuff, part of what we charged for, or was an extra charge, is actually showing Polaroid proofs.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd get a Polaroid back for your camera. So you'd actually have, the 4x5 or the 6x7 Polaroid back, and you'd have it right there to show your guest or your client so that they could see in photographic form that, yep, this is what we're looking for or not. And now we have it all the time, every session. It's actually kind of cool.
Oh, so old photographer alert! You have to drink for that.
Oh, right.
Mentioned Polaroids back in the day.
Well, I back when I worked at the ad agency and we'd go work with commercial photographers, you'd get that itemized on your bill. It would be like, 8 Polaroids were this much, and 4 chromes were this much, and all that kind of stuff.
I used to like seeing the art director. They'd draw something out, but they drew it out directly on the same format that we're photographing. And so you'd lay it over the back of your camera and more or less crop that, or position your frame to match their drawing. It's just the way we did things. It's a whole different world now, but you have, like you said, Michael, this is the technology that we own, that we have in our hands at all times. Just use it, but understand it.
Right.
Understand what a histogram really is. Oh, that would be good. We're not going to get into that. That'd be too technical.
No, let's not talk about that today.
I'll do that in my week-long class.
I want to talk about my favorite lighting tools, guys.
You have too many. You have too many toys.
I have all the toys.
Share.
You're welcome to, with social distancing, but you said you're welcome to come down.
Share with us. Tell us what you have.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted my toys. My favorite, and I tell customers this all the time too, is if I had to grab any particular flash and run out the door with it, it's going to be the Godox AD400 Pro. Because to me, it's the everything flash. It's enough power to get almost everything done, and it's small enough and portable enough that I can take it pretty much anywhere. It'll fit in my rolling bag that I can take on airplanes and put in the overhead bin. And maybe not on the airplanes you guys fly on, but those are puddle jumpers. But in most regular jets, I can fit it in the overhead bin. And it's got TTL, it's got high-speed sync, it's got a really powerful modeling light. I mean, it's really got everything. And it's not that expensive either. So that's a flash I take for most things. And then the modifier I love varies. Do you guys go through moods? I mean, I'm probably moodier than most when it comes to how often I change my lighting, because I get bored. I get bored with a certain look and I want to try something else or try a new modifier. And I realized this when I was teaching or doing a program recently on headshots, and I was pulling behind the scenes, and I had like 4 behind the scenes shots I pulled up, and every single one of them had different modifiers and different lighting. Because I could see how the mood changed from year to year, or even every couple of months. But my favorite 2 modifiers right now, I'll narrow it down to 2. One is the smaller deep parabolic, the DeepMo 70, which is a 26-inch deep parabolic that gives really focused light that's also a little more diffused than you typically get from a deep parabolic. So it's really focused yet diffuse light that you can really use to punch in a face. And then sometimes I just really feel like punching in a face.
Mama said, knock you out.
Ooh, I might use that copy line. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'll use that. And then almost the exact opposite of that, I've got the 72-inch parabolic diffused MoPho. That's just really a big parabolic umbrella that I put a diffusion cap on and just creates this really big soft light. And I'll use those 2 together. I'll boom that MoPho. I'll boom that mofo. And then I'll use that deep mode to really punch the face. So I like that look. I mean, I think you guys have seen that a little bit in my work lately, and it's a look I really dig. 6 months from now, I'll like something else, but that's what I really like right now.
And that's in studio.
Yeah. Well, actually, I like that Deep Mo 70 outside. I used that for most of my senior sessions last summer because I could use it to, because most of the time, most of the senior stuff I'm shooting, it's, waist up or even tighter, and blending with the ambient and getting a nice look on the face. But then if I've got a situation where I'm up on the bridge and the kid's standing in a stream and they're 20 some feet away, I can pull the diffusion fabric out of that, and it really becomes like a long throw reflector at that point. I can throw that light quite a ways because I get a gain of like 2.5 stops out of this softbox. So compared to just using a regular reflector with it, I use this Deep Mo and pull the diffusion material out. I get a 2.5 stop increase of effective flash exposure. It's crazy. So
nice.
I like it because it gives me that flexibility.
And you brought up a good point a little bit here, or it triggered a memory of something that you taught me when we were teaching down in Waco. And it's something I never really thought about so much. I kind of did, just kind of instinctively, but it's matching the light with the ambient light. So therefore, I shoot a lot in the soft light. So using a softbox with the diffusion, it's kind of matching that light. But then I also do where I want to like balance and get a deep blue sky, say at high noon. Then I would just rip all the diffusion off. And I basically ripped it off because I needed more power back in the day when lights weren't as powerful, or you had TTL, but you didn't use it for that anyways, but they just weren't as powerful enough. So having kind of like that hard light, that long throw reflector type effect helped balance the light and balance the sun, but yet it matched it because it was hard light with the hard light. And I see people sometimes get confused with that, or like, just still using a soft light. And it's those little subtle details that really, when you look at an image, like, why does that look so specular or so punchy and so cool? It's because they're matching that light.
Which is why, in fact, we were just discussing this on a post. I can't remember what group it was, but they asked, well, it was about beauty dishes. I think you guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I probably got on a rant. I get on rants about beauty dishes every once in a while.
Yeah. But it's like, well, why would you use a beauty dish? It depends on your environment. It depends on where you're working. If you're working in the studio, it doesn't matter as much because you can make it look like whatever you want, but you have nothing else there to compare it to. But like Dan said, when you're out on location, you want to pick a modifier that's going to most resemble the same lighting quality of what surrounds you. So if you have just the sun, you want it's a small light source, you want a small light source modifier as well, so that everything kind of balances, makes sense. So, and funny on that same line, and Michael, you got to help me out here because I don't remember. This is a technical thing again, but so we get ready to drink just because it's going to come up. But your favorite light, the 400 Pro, it amazed me when you were explaining a while back about the difference between that and the 600. It wasn't that much of a difference power-wise.
No, in effective power, and I'll explain why. And I'm not going to try to go too deep down the rabbit hole on this because I'll lose everybody listening. But let's just say that Godox created the 8600B and the 8600BM about 3 years ago, and great flashes, absolutely great flashes. A lot of people own them. Fantastic flashes. They're beautiful flashes. Anyway, and when they came out with the Pro line about a year and a half ago, and what they did with the Pro line is they learned from some of the nuances and tweaks that they heard back from the marketplace from the 8600 on things that maybe could be improved. And one of them was how far the bulb got into a softbox, because with the Bowens mount and how big a Bowens mount typically is on a softbox, it blocked a little bit of the output of the bulb when you put a softbox on the front of an 8600. And what they did with the Pro, the 8600 Pro and the 8400 Pro, they made an elongated bulb, and they actually changed the design type of the bulb and got it further into the softbox, so the flash itself is more efficient. Now, that being said, I found the 8600, the regular one, is one of the most efficient flashes I've ever seen of that kind of configuration, because I've tested other flashes that other manufacturers claim, well, this is a 600 watt second flash. I put it up against the 8600. No, it's not. So it's in something, maybe they've got the potential for 600 watt seconds there, but it's not getting through. It's not getting through to the bulb and getting into the softbox. So the 600 does a great job as it is what I'm trying to say. The Pro series does it even that much better. So the difference between an 8400 Pro, which is a 400 watt second flash, and a 600, regular 600, is not that much. It's like maybe a third stop when it really should be a half stop.
So there's some bulb envy going on then.
A little bit of bulb envy, yeah.
I noticed I remember when we were down in Waco doing that workshop, and we had your lights. I think it was a 600.
No, I had the 360 back then.
Back then it's the 360.
Yeah.
But didn't we had equivalent strobes, because Dan and I both had a different model of 600.
Oh, let's name them. It was the Photix Indra.
It was and
I didn't know if we were naming names.
We're calling them out. We're calling them out.
We had them there with the same modifiers. We lined them up on the carpet, line on the carpet, and metered every single one of them. And there was same modifiers, same distance, same everything being equal, and there was not nearly the same amount of power out of the Indras as there was out of the 600 from Kodaks. But then, like you said, and that's just power. No, but you're also mentioning something that's very important, and it's something that my mentor always told me. There's a difference between, there's a lot of different thought processes about lighting, and one is output, the other is quality of light.
Yes,
and that bulb design, being farther into that softbox, is allowing the technical thought process, the physics of it all, to make a better quality of light in lieu of or in addition to the modifier itself. So I think that's and it's great to know that. It's to understand, like you said, how come my stuff doesn't look like your stuff? Well, first of all, we're using different things, we're using them differently, and it does make a difference. It's the art of it.
And not every softbox is the same. I run into this a lot. It's like, well, this is a 32-inch softbox from X manufacturer, and this is a 32 softbox from your Snap line. Why is this one $50 less or $20 less? It's like, well, build quality is one of it, but the other thing is what kind of materials are used on the inside? What's the quality of the diffusion fabric? What's the quality of the grid? Because you'll see sometimes grids are included, but is it a smaller grid pattern? Is it a deeper grid pattern? Or is it, 2-inch square grids that are only 1 inch deep versus a 1-inch square pattern that's 2 inches deep? That's going to make a huge difference in how that grid focuses and channels that light. So you start to see some of those nuances in construction of some of the softboxes that will make up the difference of price. And one other aspect I always like to bring up too is every softbox I've ever shot from different manufacturers, I'll shoot different colors. And people don't realize that. I know that, what was the old Photoflex? Was it Photoflex? They always shot warm. And some of the Westcotts shoot kind of warm. My Gomo softboxes tend to shoot a little cool, and that's on purpose, because most of the time, and the intent for that line of softboxes was for people to use an open shade. What color is the light in open shade?
Cool.
7,000K, 8,000K, 9,000K. It's bluer light. So if you're trying to mix flash with cool light, it's better to have a little cooler softbox, rather than trying to shoot something that's metering out at 5,000K. And whereas my Snap line is built more as a studio softbox, great for outside too, but that meters at exactly 5,950 degrees Kelvin. So, very, very close to what most daylight balanced flashes will shoot.
And one thing I want to point out or get your guys' opinion on is when you see a photographer that you admire and you ask, well, what equipment are you using? Or how do I achieve that look? It's the equipment is important, But just because you buy the same equipment as that person, you're not going to guarantee you're going to have the same look. Like you're getting a start, but it's a lot of things combined. So kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, well, I can buy a Ferrari, but I'm not going to drive like Mario Andretti.
Oh, that's a better reference than I made with the whatever I made a while back. I forgot now. The cruise control. We're all about cars and driving with references
and
today.
The Nova, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I get it.
One of my mentors was Darton Drake, and a lot of you know Darton or knew Darton, and he always told the story about he was working in the camera store or whatever with a guy that was phenomenally talented, apparently, and he said, "Oh, I'm so excited." He bought a new Hasselblad, and he went to this guy that worked at the store with him or owned the store or whatever, and he said, "Hey, whatever his name is," he said, I got this new Hasselblad here. I'm going to be good just like you. And the guy turned and looked at him and was like, I could take a picture with a Polaroid camera and do better than what you did with that stupid Hasselblad. It's not the equipment, and the same thing. I mean, most of us could create a really nice image with the iPhone, just as we do with everything else. We could do it. In fact, one of the things, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag a little bit, but one of my new projects for my week-long, all the things that I had planned for March that the coronavirus has like canceled on us. But one of my new exercises is that everyone's going to create an image with a flashlight.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your lighting source. You have a flashlight and a notebook, go. But you just got to know how to use light. Light is physics, and when it comes right down to it, and using different modifiers, using different ways of reflecting it, or the source itself, it can change based on what you're trying to achieve. So it comes down to the craft again. What you can do with the equipment that you have. Now, some equipment makes it a lot easier. There's no question about it.
MoLights.
Yeah. MoLight. This episode is brought to you by Michael Mowbray. MoLight.
I was like, where are you going with this? Because I'm trying to sell some damn lights here.
And that was supposed to be Carl's radio voice, but instead he talked into his hands like he was in a tunnel.
I sounded more like Grover. I mean, I love Grover. Remember Grover? This is near. This is far. Yeah, I can't do the radio voice like Michael does. My radio voice doesn't sound quite as sexy as Michael's voice.
But wait. You think I'm sexy?
No, I don't. But people have said that.
It's just the voice.
People,
just the
I want names. I need names. Okay,
No,
sociable. Time to
sociable on that. I'm out of wine.
Uh-oh.
Hey, we're only 30 some minutes into this and you're already dry, Dan. Holy cow.
Yeah, so that's why I don't bring the bottle in, because I drink too fast.
Well, he hasn't been talking enough. That's the problem.
I'm taking notes. You guys are educating me.
Did you guys see that some of the comments about our podcast, now that they're out and about and people have been watching them, that they think we should drink more or they want to see us drinking more? I'm going, what are you trying to do to us here?
I know, no kidding. It's like you guys wanted to schedule when we're going to do this. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I can drink today.
Absolutely, you can.
Well, this next episode sponsored by liver replacement.
We have to get a rehab.
Yeah.
Well, kind of tagging off of what Carl was talking about with the iPhone. Think about this, because you guys were all there when we were in Nashville for imaging. I think the last night we were there, we decided to go downtown Nashville, and we went to Kid Rock's bar, which I wasn't all that excited about, because I'm not a big fan of Kid Rock. That place is really cool. But when they were serving us our $15 drinks, and a piece, yeah, and I got one that was like bright red. I mean, everybody Instagrams what they eat and what they drink and what that. So I could have taken just a shot with my iPhone, but instead I had two of you guys, flip on your LED lights on your iPhones and backlight it. So we had this light coming through this liquid and using some of the ambient light, and it took 15, 20 seconds to light it. It rocked. I mean, for a little quick iPhone shot of what am I drinking right now? This.
Do you see what he did there? It rocked at Kid Rocks.
I know. I was figuring. I was hoping people would get that tie-in. But it's about the lighting. The tools to a degree are important, because better tools can help you get the job done more quickly or more accurately or whatever. But understanding how to use them and using the light. Yeah, we've been around long enough. We could use iPhones and flashlights, and we could get pretty good junk. We could get pretty good junk done.
Well, no, that's a great point, and it kind of takes us back to like Renaissance painters and painting and stuff. It's about light. I mean, you think of Rembrandt light. Well, that's all about light, and it's about creating a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional form. And how do you do that? It's with proper lighting, and the painters knew that. How do you make it look more real? What's about proper lighting, or at least painting it with proper lighting? And it's the same thing with photography. How can it look more dynamic or more three-dimensional? It's with proper lighting.
What was that word again?
The Manthemo.
Diamondanic.
Any word over 3 syllables I'm having troubles with right now.
So if you want to get your lighting more diamondanic,
just ask Dan.
Well, it's coined here.
On that note too, what did painters do to try to get a three-dimensional look in a painting? They put highlights on some things. They painted darker tones on others to create the look of shadow. Things that have highlights on them visually look like they're coming towards you, or look like they're closer to you. Things that have shadows on them look like they're a little further away. So it gives the visual illusion of three-dimensionality and depth. Same thing we're doing, people. It's the exact same thing we're doing. We're just not painting it. We're using lights to kind of create highlights, to midtones, to shadows, to give the illusion of depth in a two-dimensional format. And
then we're recording it.
Exactly.
Which is really difficult, which is why I always tell my students in class that there's a lot to think about, because not only are we trying to use the light in the right way, to the right kind of light, the right quality of light, the right intensity of light, in the right direction and the right feathers, so that we get texture and shape and form. But at the same time, we're trying to create the illusion of three-dimensional in a flat piece of paper. So we're doing with light coming forward and dark going back, and cool colors receding and warm colors coming forward. And holy man, there's a lot to think about. You can give yourself a raise. So I'm giving yourself a raise. You can all have 15%. When you get home, you get 15% across the board. You're getting a raise, because there's a lot of crap to think about. It's not just about the equipment. It's not just, like you said, owning the toys, which, Michael, we still have toy envy, because you have so many cool toys. And yes, I was thinking about sharing, not just sharing information, but yes, sharing your toys. I did kind of mean that before, but there's so much to think about in photography that it gets confusing sometimes. And that's why we have face-to-face workshops. And that's why it's important to continue your education and to practice, because it doesn't matter what kind of modifiers or camera equipment or lighting that you have. If you don't practice with it, it's not going to come second nature, and it's not going to work for you in a workplace environment.
And we need to keep practicing. We keep practicing. We're all master photographers. We've done this for thousands and thousands of hours and hundreds of thousands of images. We keep practicing, because tell me this, has this happened to you? And I know the answer to this already, but say you haven't shot for a couple of weeks, or it's been a while since you photographed a senior. That first time you pick up a camera and photograph a senior for the season, it's like, how does this work again? I don't remember. You kind of lose that mental memory, that physical memory. It takes a little while to get back in the flow of things.
Yeah, shake the rust off. And I'm glad I wrote down practice here earlier, so I'm glad Carl brought it up, because I feel like, well, one thing I stress is when you go to a conference or something, is when you come home, actually before you even leave, set up a session that you can come back, and not a paid session. This is someone you've worked with before, and let them know, hey, I'm going to learn something new. I'm not sure what it is, but I want to come back and practice. And, so I see a lot of people come home and get busy and day to day are playing catch up. And then all of a sudden they pull out, their notes and be like, what is this? What? I don't know. If it's still fresh and you can practice in your own environment and the light that you have, or maybe you ordered a light and it's going to be delivered there, you have that set up that you can practice with it. I mean, think of any professional athlete, they're practicing, but I think as artists and photographers, we're like, oh, we'll get a light, we'll turn it on, and
magic will happen.
Because I saw someone else do it and it looks so easy. And trust me, I'm there with you. I like go to something like, man, that's easy. And I get home and be like, what the heck? He made it look so easy, or she made it look so easy. How come I can't get this? But then after practicing, I'm like, okay, now I got it in, or now I've taken what they've taught me and created my own kind of spin on it, my own style. So yeah. And like you said, keep practicing.
Man, I love that. I think I'm going to do that before I go, even when I'm going to teach, or when I'm going to a conference to learn. Either way, I'm going to schedule somebody so that when I get back, all the little nuggets I got, I can play with, I can practice. I think that's a wonderful idea. I'm doing that. I'm drinking to that.
So
nice job, Dan.
So
drop the mic. I'm out.
Just to sum that up, you're going to come home and play with your nuggets, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly what I heard too.
You know what I mean.
Schedule time to play with your nuggets.
Yeah. Because your nuggets need attention too. Anyway, changing gears a little bit. So, Carl, what's your favorite light modifier?
My favorite light modifier. Say that 3 times fast. I like the 32-inch Octabox, but I'm torn between that and the 42 Snapbox. I like them both. They're both like concrete as far as the construction is concerned, but because most of the areas that I'm working are shaded areas already, they both work really well for that. I do like the Snap. It seems, as far as the insides, they seem a little bit more reflective. Mm-hmm. And so that if I do go out into more edgy light, I can rip that front or the face off, and it seems to be a little bit harder, and I can move it back. I'm using a 600 light or 600 in it most of the time, so I can put it back, make it a smaller light source, and have it match the environment a little bit better. So I'm kind of back and forth between the two, but those are my favorites.
What about you, Dan?
Well, I'm kind of like you, Michael. I kind of go through phases, and sometimes the phases have to do with I want to move faster and I want to be more portable. So I get things that allow me to do that. And the MoLights allow me to do that. However, it's like sometimes I feel like, and I especially learned this with recording some videos at Sync, is I just need to slow down a little bit too and work. I know I can get good light, but sometimes I rush it. So I've been using the smaller beauty dish, but I'm going to go back to, I think, like that 48-inch Octabox, or I have the Snap. I'm not even sure what size that one is.
Not sure
but
either.
They're just a little bit larger modifiers, because shooting with that at Sync, I used, Shannon. We used Shannon Etchley's. I think it was a 48-inch.
Yeah, she loves the 48-inch Octa. Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, man, I need to go back to that, or even get that your large parabolic for days when it's not too extremely windy. And that, what's nice about that, it's large, but it's extremely portable because It can fold up easily. So I want to get back to that, because the light quality, as you mentioned before, is just so beautiful. And, I can just slow down a little bit. And I always work with an assistant, which we talked about in a previous episode. So yeah, haul that thing out and set it up. It's not that much more work and not taking that much more time. So I'm going back to that this year. I already told myself that, as well as every year I start out with like, okay, I definitely have to use that 200 and get that edge light. And then I get busy and it's like, oh yeah, the first couple outfits we have, edge light and everything. And then I get kind of long winded and we get behind with changing outfits and locations. Like, okay, well, we got to speed this up, or otherwise we're going to lose our light.
I do the exact same thing. And every start of every season, one of my things is, okay, slow down this year, take your time this year, because, and part of it is, I feel like sometimes the pressure of the situation makes me more responsive and more creative. But then I realized later on, it's like, oh yeah, I wish I would have taken the time to add a kicker in, or, oh, I wish I would have caught that piece of clothing. Now I got to figure out, do I retouch that, or do I not even show that image because it bothered me? And oh man, maybe if I would have taken another angle here and just stepped back and looked at this would have been better. Not that anything that was captured was bad, because people love it and they buy it, but I think we're all people who want to keep getting better. The gap to more betterness is getting narrower and narrower, so it's getting harder and harder to to take that next step up. And that's one of the things I think maybe might help me.
And one thing that I always struggle with, like I mentioned earlier, is I don't want to lose the client. I want to engage with the senior, and they're used to having things move very fast in my mind, and social media and everything going. And I feel like if I'm taking too much time, they're going to be bored and I might start to lose them. So that's one thing that I struggle personally. And then I also added video, or, maybe people listening kind of have the same thing. You feel like you want to do so much, like, oh, I'm brand new in photography, or I've been doing it for years. I've seen all these cool things happen, so I want to include them. I want to do video. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do social media. I want to capture all these things and not have an assistant. And it's just extremely difficult to do all that, and it takes time. So I usually recommend like slowly adding one thing at a time. And it's still difficult because, like I said, every year I'm like, I'm adding video, I'm doing kicker, I'm going to slow down, and do social media stories and interview, and it gets overwhelming. So it's just finding that balance.
Which is why you need a raise.
Exactly.
Yes.
So some parting shots. Shot ski time.
Shot
ski time.
Everyone knows what a shot ski is.
No,
right?
We got to explain it. Basically, what is it? A water ski?
Mm-hmm.
I think the original was a water ski with shot glasses glued to it.
It's a water ski with shot glasses glued to it, so 4 or 5 or 6 people can take a shot at the same time. So you fill them all
you gotta
up.
Do is tip the ski
at the right time, and not pour it down the front of your face. But anyway, so some parting shots here. Dan, you talked about you were shooting some videos down at Sync. I know you've been working on a project for your seniors, or your Seniors Unlocked group. You have a special private group for that. Tell me a little bit more about that. How can people maybe participate in that and learn more lighting?
Yeah, so that's called SU Insiders. It's a membership group, and it's really focused on Photoshop composites as well as lighting, and it includes real live senior sessions. And I shouldn't say live as in you're right there over my shoulder, but I recorded senior sessions that I had this year, and not knowing what each one was going to be. It's like, hey, here's real life sessions. It's not a highly produced, like everything's polished. You see me make mistakes. You see how I interact and how every client is different. So I think it's just basically like you were looking over my shoulder during those senior sessions. And then down at Sync, I was able to coerce, is that even said right? Talk.
Sure.
Of course, other photographers that I admired into doing kind of the same thing. So I have Tammy Howell, Shan Atchley, Megan Drain, Aaron Adams, and Josh Peterson. We recorded all those people down at Sync. And what's cool about that, which I didn't realize until later, is that we use the same models. So you got to see how each person interpreted the same locations as that hotel and the same models, but put their whole new spin on it. And that was very interesting. So those are going to be released soon as well. I'm editing them as we speak.
Awesome. And Carl, what do you got going on so people could learn a little bit more about lighting?
Well, as you're all practicing and trying to learn, and having that person set up so that when you get back from your workshop, you can try out the things you learned. I have a coaching site where you can send me the images that you have worked on or practice with, or even client work, and send them to me every month. And I looked at them and discuss them and make comments and or show other images and videos to help you understand more different directions that might be more positive or constructive, or different maybe options that you could have had on that same situation that you had visited for your portrait. I talk about red flags, and I do this on a video, and I send it back to you, put it in your library, and that way you can, every month, you're taking your practice, you're having a coach look at them, make comments, make constructive criticism from a educated source, and you can grow from that. Now, I also do global webinars every month, so that we're taking work from several different people from all over the country, different skill sets, different visions, different ideas and styles. And we talk about those as well as a group. And you can watch those whenever you like. We do them as a webinar live. You can ask questions during the webinars, or you can watch the recordings, whatever is best for you. We also have coaching corners, so you can set up a webinar. We can do one-on-one, face-to-face, sharing screens, talking about what you're doing, how to maybe work with your lighting or your composition, your color thought process. They're all the different things that make a portrait powerful, or post-process, anything that you need help with, and basically coach you through and make you a better photographer at a rapid rate. That's what we do. And you can see it at ccphotocoach.com. We have a special going, actually. If this airs before the end of March, we have an introductory offer that you can see if you look on there quick. So ccphotocoach.com.
And I'll be dropping links to everything we talked about on the Facebook group. So that's a good reminder. Go join our Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/photo happy hour all together. Or just go search groups for Photo Happy Hour and join up, because that's where you can find the links to everything we talk about. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app. And please go out, subscribe, and give us a good rating, because hopefully you're enjoying. If you stayed through us this long, hopefully it's worth a 5-star rating, and we definitely appreciate that. So every week we have a sponsor. This week has been sponsored by Old Smoky Cookies and Cream Whiskey. Old Smoky mix 35 proof whiskey with cookies and cream liqueur to create a concoction that's delicious, whether you're drinking it on the rocks or enjoying it on top of ice cream. Old Smoky Cookies and Cream Whiskey. And as always, these are real things that we went out and found. So
delicious.
It's delicious. So
it's not just for breakfast anymore.
No, it's not. So until next time, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Last call.
You've been listening to the Photo Happy Hour podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to not miss a single action-packed episode. And join our Photo Happy Hour Facebook group, where we'll post links to the stuff we all talk about. You can find my MoLight gear online at www.gomolight.com. That's GOMOLIGHT.com. You can find the Facebook page under MoLight Store, and I also run the Godox Flash Help Group on Facebook. You can find Dan's Senior Unlocked website at www.seniorsunlocked.com. That's seniors with an S at the end, unlocked.com. And the Facebook group under Seniors Unlocked. And you can find Carl's Coaching Corner at www.ccphotocoach.com, ccphotocoach.com. Till next time, cheers to you.
If you have enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and give this fellowship the highest possible rating. Do so with great haste. Fly, you fools!